Bottom Line is a production of UNCTV in association with the North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation. Funding for Bottom Line is provided by the North Carolina Association of Realtors, BB&T, Ken Melton and Associates, Carolina Asphalt Pavement Association, Trusted Choice Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina, and Weyerhaeuser.
Thank you for joining us for Bottom Line. With our News of the Week segment, we have on our panel Sugata Mukherjee, the editor of the Triangle Business Journal, and Colin Campbell, the editor of the NC Insider State Government News Service. Sugata, an interesting story about the HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities in the state, some of the challenges that they're facing in this modern time. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, we did a pretty long enterprising story on the historically black colleges and universities and in North Carolina, and sort of looked as to what is the equation, what is the business equation for these. And what we found was really, you know, we all talk about student debt, right? I mean, student debt is going up, people are getting worried, but the students that are going through this HBCU program, if you may, their tuition is going up. Their financial aid and grants have either sort of stayed the same or in some cases going down, and they're earning less money once they graduate. So that sort of mixes into sort of a terrible formula, you would think, that why am I sending my kid to school if we know that not only this kid is going to be burdened by debt, he or she will really have a tough time paying off that debt from after they work. And
well, you know, higher education in the state, to some extent, responsible for producing the workforce of the state, public and private universities, necessarily making it possible for people to be gainfully employed in the jobs that are available, the economy of the 21st century. But the debt load sometimes for a lot of these kids is too great for the jobs they're able to secure to be able to pay off the debt.
Absolutely. I mean, we sort of talked to a few students. One of the students said she was a rising junior, and she said she's already $35,000 in debt. And then we sort of correspondingly looked at, in her college, what is sort of the median earning after 10 years? Being in the job market for 10 years, it's $31,600.
Wow.
So that makes you wonder as to how the equation is going to play out unless they start getting more money or they have less debt. And neither one of them seems to be going the right direction.
And some of these students are folks who couldn't get into the public universities because of their GPA, and so these are the only options if they want higher education, but they end up so far in debt.
Exactly. And that is something that I think not only as a public policy, but also as, you know, we have a lot of these private foundations, they really need to look into this. I mean, that we have to decide as a nation whether, you know, we really need to look deeper into, okay, the socioeconomic abilities and the ability to pay the debt, and of course the earnings level. Do they mesh with the rest of the population?
Right.
If they don't, and if the margin is getting bigger, the difference is getting bigger, then we need to figure out a way to sort of bring that margins down.
Well, clearly in higher education, some innovative approaches are necessary.
Yeah, and this article comes out the same week as we're hearing this announcement from UNC Greensboro that they just this week struck a partnership with the community colleges in Alamance and Guilford counties to sort of have a co-degree program where students start out at the community college. They're paying community college tuition, which of course is a lot cheaper, but they can still access the benefits of being at a big school like UNC Greensboro, the student activities, the clubs, the sports, which is a really, I think, innovative partnership and really sort of addresses the issue of affordability for students who really can't afford 4 years of your traditional major school.
Exactly. I mean, that is, I mean, you know, you look year by year, if the debt level is going up, to going through a community college system, perhaps you can bring that cost down, because typically community college charges are somewhat different than a full, you know, I would imagine UNCG's credit hour charges because of the ability and the resources that UNCG have. Now, if students can get both of them, you know, have the cost taken care of in community college system, but the social experience, as they say, go it through UNCG, it's a sort of, I would think it's a win-win situation, sure.
Well, undoubtedly, this is one public education issue that the state legislature is going to want to continue to take a look at and maybe make some modifications to address these challenges. Speaking of which, our friends in the General Assembly came back to Raleigh this week. Colin, what's the status of their meeting?
Yeah, so they had been out of session for about a month. They're now back. The original purpose of today's session was called by the governor to address his veto overrides on 4 different bills that he was opposed to. They decided this Thursday morning not to do that. They're instead going to wait until September to take action on those. That's just a matter of they didn't have enough people here as a result of vacations and some other issues, it being August. So all of that's on the back burner for now. There's some other minor bills that they may be looking at before the end of the day, but it's going to be a one-day session, and then the focus is going to turn to redistricting probably for the next month. The court ruling forces them to get new legislative maps drawn by September 1st, so the goal now is to start that process with a meeting on Friday. They'll have another meeting next week to discuss the criteria for redistricting, and the goal, Speaker Moore told me, is to have maps out by and approved by the end of August. So will be a busy August from the redistricting standpoint, while I think everything else is going to kind of have to wait till September.
Any substantive issues relative to the business community, either for the session this week or the anticipatory September session for the legislature?
Yeah, one thing to watch is the annual regulatory reform bill. That is something that got gummed up in some controversies between the House and the Senate. That may emerge either this week, and if they don't get agreement this week, we'll probably see that one in September. Some stormwater issues for coastal development stuff. There's a controversial plan to repeal the Outer Banks plastic shopping bag ban that a lot of the environmentalists are concerned about. That may be in or out in the final version of this bill. So a lot of to watch for, not necessarily the sexy issues, but a lot of little stuff that affects folks in business and development.
One of the big news items this week here in the Research Triangle area of the state, the announcement of a new executive director for the RTP Foundation, sort of the landlord who oversees the master plan for the use of the Research Triangle Park and all of the companies that are located there. Relatively abrupt departure of the previous president of this organization, and now Scott Levitan, the fellow who comes out of the Johns Hopkins area research campus there. But Sugata, what is the relevance of RTP today? In its time, it was novel to think of putting together companies in that way, but a lot of competitors now. Is RTP still a relevant factor in our economic development strategies?
I think it could be. I think the critical part that I think we have talked about this in the show before is they have to figure out to get people to live there, at least around there more, have retail so people can shop there, they work there, and play there. Well, now what you have a situation is people go there, they drive to work, and then they come back, all of them, almost all of them. So this new CEO is saying that my first priority is the development of the Park Center, which is the mixed-use development. So I think his priority is right on. He along with the RTP board, have to make that effort, whether through private foundation money or through private donations, in order to bring that to fruition. Because until they do that, I really don't see companies coming to RTP having these giant campus-like environment where people will still drive, go to work, and then come back. They like more density. But we have seen this over and over again across many cities.
Yeah, you could lose companies to downtown Durham, downtown Raleigh.